Welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Guy Min. Today we are sitting down with our friends Chris, Seth, and John again. Thanks for having me out, fellas. How we doing?
Doing pretty good.
Excellent. Doing good.
Doing pretty good, huh? I like it. So we didn't get to dive in too much the last episode on, favorite bourbons, what got you into bourbon, all those type of things. So I thought we'd do a quick hitting episode here and just kind of do that. So that way it gives people an opportunity to learn who you are, how you got into bourbon, what's your favorite bourbon, all that kind of good stuff. So we'll start off with John down here, the old Southern drawl man down here. And
I don't know if I really have a good story for this.
You don't have to have a good story. You just have to have a story.
Just how I got into, I really didn't start drinking good bourbon until I was up here, really.
Oh, well, that's probably pretty fitting.
From
Alabama. You were probably, a Bud Light bandit?
Yeah, Bud Light. Bud Light, Miller Light, that kind of shit.
It's all good.
The typical 101, that kind of stuff out on the farm and what have you. But
right.
Occasionally.
So
when I probably wasn't supposed to.
So when you got in the northern regions of the Midwest here, you decided you were going to start drinking bourbon, and then you said your go-to was Ezra Brooks 7.
Yep.
And then, so do you have a favorite bourbon, though?
I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite. I don't discriminate.
You don't discriminate?
I don't discriminate. I'm a fan of the 10, the Russell 10. That's a good one. I'm trying to recall what else I have.
You ever have any Wellers or Pappies or any of that type of stuff?
I've never had any Wellers or Pappies. I've never been fortunate enough to drink any of that.
It's overrated.
I think some of it is.
I think some of it is, and that's part of the reason why I haven't searched it out.
Yep.
Just for that very reason.
So nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy. I'm pretty, I kind of said it last time on the last podcast. It's just pretty generic.
So what do you think the rarest thing is you've drank?
Oh Lord, I wouldn't.
Don't even know that.
I don't even. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I don't have an answer for that one.
You're fairly new to this game. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm still developing my palate and figuring out what leather tastes like and all this other stuff.
So I tie a lot of things to memories. So we'll dive into that for a quick. So like whenever I think of when I taste leather, I remember chewing on a baseball glove when you were playing in the outfield or whatever. You're probably a better baseball player than me, but like I used to chew on it like just the edge of the glove.
Yep.
That's when I think of leather. That's what I get.
I just need to refresh my memory on that.
And tobacco, I think of very specific, like pipe tobacco, because that's what one of my grandpas used to smoke a pipe. So, like when I think of tobacco flavors, I think of like that old cherry pipe tobacco, very sweet, subtle but earthy at the same time. But I don't know. So I tie a lot of that stuff to memories.
Yeah.
So. That's what I tell people. You tie bourbon, I feel like, to memories of what you know from your past.
I would agree. Yeah.
So, Chris, if that's the case, favorite bottle, what got you into bourbon, all that good stuff.
My favorite bottle really just depends on my mood and my outlook. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the board. I will say that, 1792 port finish, had I known, I guess everybody can say that about the bourbon market today, right? So I bought like three bottles of that for like $45. My wife and I liked it so much. We downed the first two and then we held on to the third.
Yep.
Now we're halfway through the third, kind of nursing it, looking at it on the shelf like, because secondary market's like $700.
Good Lord, I would have never guessed they were that high.
Yeah.
I can't bring myself that close to.
I don't really either now that things are that expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because she's searched and is like, should we pull the trigger on another bottle? I'm like, $700.
You've done a couple of barrel picks, so you spent that much on bourbon. So you just have to justify whether one bottle is worth that much money.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe if I can win it in a raffle or something, sure. But I don't think I'm going to go out and pay $700 for it. I don't know. I don't know that any bottle is worth that. I've got some Willett Family Estate on the shelf upstairs.
Right. Purple caps.
Yep.
Are they the older ones, like the 10 or 12 years, or are they like the 6 and 7s?
I've got 11 and 13.
Ooh, yeah, those are big dollar bottles up there.
I've got one opened, and then I'm looking at the secondary market price, and then I'm like, do I really want to open these others?
What you do now is you take the other one and you trade it for two of those port finishes.
Could do that. You're right.
That's a good.
That's
an
aha moment right there.
That's what they bring. That's what they pay me the big bucks for.
There
man.
You go.
I'm a thinking man.
Memory wise, though, you bring up the memory aspect. Had two grandparents, my two grandpas on each side, both lovers of whiskey. My grandpa Loop, actually, he loved gin, but he drinks some whiskey too. But my grandpa Gilpin, funny enough, at his funeral, before we were closing the casket at the Visitation to go have the funeral service, we all took a shot of Early Times because that was his drink.
There you go.
You know, so which ironically, like, he drank bottom of the shelf Early Times. It's terrible. You know, it's not
good.
It's not gonna be your, as we were discussing earlier, your gateway drug into bourbon at all, in my opinion. But yeah, so I think that kind of just piqued my interest though. As I got older, bourbon tourism started getting hot, and went on some smaller distillery tours. Went to Willett,
okay,
you know, and
did you meet Drew?
Yeah.
Drew's a good dude.
His wife, and really, I think the whole family's working, honestly.
Yeah, typically.
So that was 2014, 2015 time frame, like when you could still get stuff.
Still get it, yeah.
And again, dumb enough now, I guess I should have bought every time I went.
Absolutely.
Even though back then I was like, do I want to spend $90 on a bottle of bourbon? And you know,
the banker in you, man. We're all cheap.
yeah,
All cheap.
Right. So I ended up getting my dad. This was probably back in 2011, because he loves bourbon too. But I bought a wax top block letter Willet. It was a 9-year-old, but it was picked by a wine shop in Indianapolis. It was a private pick. Spent $90 on that thing, and he never opened it. He thought it was too nice. He couldn't open it. That was like 2011 or whatever. So 2017, market's going crazy on that. I realized that he still has it up in his shelf. I'm like, Dad, are you never gonna open this thing? He's like, you know, you paid $90 for it, so I don't think, you know, it's a little pricey. I don't think I'm gonna open it. I'm like, Dad, I could probably get you, like, because it was getting close to Father's Day. He was looking at toolboxes. I was like, Dad, I could probably, like, we could sell this thing. You can go buy
a nice toolbox,
like a top of the line, like, and that's what we did. I raffled it off.
There you go.
And he ended up buying a toolbox.
What'd you get for it?
Like $700.
Yeah,
and that today is even cheap.
Oh yeah,
for what
cheap.
that is.
Yeah,
but,
especially if it was a 8 or 10-year-old. They're like $150 a year now. That's what they say for Willet. Yeah, $150, $200 a year. Okay. They've just gone crazy. I mean, just absolutely nuts. But
so I don't know. Yeah, but you know,
so you brought up another point, and we'll go back to John on this, and then you can answer yours.
Sure.
What's your favorite distillery tour?
I think I've done the Willet. I mean, we got served really nice at Starlight. I know.
I think Starlight puts on a first class experience.
The very first one we went through, it was really, really nice. It was a really good experience. They explained everything really, really well. I would have to say Starlight.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of them. I've done, you know, to the mega industrial Jim Beam to your craft, you know, Willet or, you know, Starlight or whatnot. So I would have to say I'd probably agree with that.
Starlight?
With the Starlight experience. It's just a different vibe. It really is.
So Seth?
Not the best, but the probably most hilarious was Barrel House Distillery.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that. I hadn't either until that day. Had some family in from out of town. Went down, did a Woodford tour, which I've actually done work at, which is cool. Actually, when my car broke down, Chris, I was on my way down to Woodford to that project. We had to load it up in the trailer, and they let us by where they have, I forget which building they call that. They've got all the wood aging. It's all boily and doing all kinds of the funny stuff, you know.
Yep.
Is that their experimental stuff or what?
No, it's probably where they're air drying it.
It's in like big wood, you know, it's got wood paneling all the way around, and it's just in this big bowl, and it's sitting there bubbling before it goes into the pot stills.
Where they're making beer.
Oh.
This was their bourbon.
This is the mash tuns you're looking at?
No,
yeah,
so before it becomes bourbon, it has to be beer first. Like, you have to make beer, and then they distill it into bourbon. So if it's all bubbly and it's in that big giant
frothy
mash tune,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
beer.
All right, that's where we
That's
were
the
at.
beer portion.
So
Okay.
they let us keep the trailer with all of our stuff, and they like blockaded around our emptied out trailer so I could put my car in there. Anyway, we went to Barrel House Distillery, and this guy, man, I forget his name. I think it was David. He was the funniest guy, and it's like, you know, you go into the back and you're standing next to a forklift, and he's cracking jokes, and we're like, "This is it? This is where you do your distilling?" He's like, "Yeah, this is the spot, man. You know, we don't have safety protocols." Like, he was just joking, but I thought it was just the funniest. We all thought it was a really good time, but they did have, I forget what they called it exactly, but I think it was Rock House or something. It's kind of like for them, like a rare release or something that they had that I thought was really good. I only bought a 375, but that was really good. But in terms of cleanliness and overall facility, just inviting and staff, etc., obviously I'm with them. I say Starlight, but I have not done, to my credit, I haven't done a ton of distillery tours. I think I've only done 4 at this point.
So for me, I love Old Forester. I love the tour there, just the history and the heritage that kind of comes with it. That, and I just love Old Forester in general. But if you're gonna go to a small family ran operated micro distillery or like a smaller distillery, I don't disagree with the three of you guys at all. I think Starlight just puts on a first class show, and they really just go above and beyond it to make people feel at home.
Scott, can I
agree with you?
What I say? Every tour has a different piece, but as far as the tasting experience, from a technical aspect, I don't know if anybody's done Peerless.
So I've done the tour, and I'm waiting to go through and actually do a full tasting with John, the barrel manager there.
Okay.
I just interviewed him not that long ago, and he actually owns a coffee company.
Really?
Yeah, called Stave and Bean.
Oh, you know what? I saw your
episode
on.
So they age their coffee in bourbon barrels or in rum cask or different things like that. They've even done a couple that were cocktails, like where they actually made a cocktail, threw it in the bourbon barrel, let it like kind of marry into the barrel, and then they threw the coffee beans into it. Like they made a Manhattan one, and then a sidecar and a couple other things. So
sign me up.
So that's why I said yeah. So the coffee's delicious. So I'm anxious to get in there, because I've not been a huge Peerless fan, just because I think the price point kind of threw me off to begin with, because it was younger stuff and it was $90 to $100, and so but the stuff that he let me try when we did the episode, he brought in some sneak peek like barrel picks, and I was like, this shit's pretty good. So I'm anxious to get back over and do a try.
I was skeptical. I just think the tasting piece of it, and I cannot remember which distiller we sat in with, but it was a good tasting. Kind of out of all the experience I've had, that one sticks out for that piece of the tour.
Gotcha.
So
Seth, what got you into bourbon?
I think it was a combination of both. Well, I had a friend who, he was my next door neighbor, and became a really close friend, and he is a massive Wild Turkey 101 guy. He was the guy that made me want to like bourbon, but not the greatest educator.
Right.
And so come over to Brent's house, and first starting to meet him, hang out with him, and he's constantly here. And he'd always have either that or Buffalo Trace, right? And that's why for a long time, like, everybody's like, oh, Buffalo Trace. You know, you talk to these people out of town, they're freaking out about it. And I was like, Buffalo Trace trash. You know, like, I enjoy it nowadays. It's not a go-to. But anyway, he's pitching me shots. Here, try this. It's a shot, you know. Here, he just set down a shot glass. Here, try this. And I'd be like, ugh, you know, and doing the whole deal. And, and he didn't know anything about bourbon tasting. So my little brother starts getting into drinking bourbon probably a year and a half maybe before I did. And
so is this the twin? Is he your little brother, or is this another brother?
So I got 3 brothers. One is 2 years
Darryl,
younger.
My other brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl.
Yeah.
I'm Larry.
Yeah, and Jim. No. I've got 2 other brothers. One's 8 years younger than me, and one's 2 years. So this is the 2-year younger brother. We all live here pretty close together and stuff. So anyway, he's getting me into trying bourbon, and he showed me this documentary on Hulu. Maybe you've seen it, The Art of Making Bourbon.
Yeah,
it's called Neat, The Art of Making Bourbon.
Yep.
But just really understanding the heritage behind it, what it's actually made of, how you can detect flavor profiles, what you're looking for, how to sniff it. You know what I mean? Like there's
No,
aspects
100%.
to all of that, and you've taught me some stuff, and Chris has taught me some stuff. But come full circle, which is why we're here, which is why I'm here. Chris and I think, kind of rehashed a friendship like I knew you in high school, but through bourbon, which again tying memories to bourbon.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. I tied Blanton's to Chris. So when I was first getting into bourbon, I was with my younger brother, and this is when I first started getting into it. Right after I'd watched this documentary, kind of learned how to taste it. This is hilarious. Literally, my first bottle that I bought on my own, uneducated, that someone wasn't telling me to buy, was a regular old Carl T. just Starlight bourbon, just because I thought the bottle looked cool. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know Starlight. You know what I mean? Like I always thought Huber's wine. I was like, well, whatever.
Let's try the bourbon.
Yeah, let's try the bourbon. And I saved that bottle, still got it. But that bottle was helpful in kind of getting me in. But then I started texting Chris. Like every time I was at a liquor store, it became a game for me. I was like, I need to try something new. And I would just be like, Chris. And I would send him a picture of the wall. What do I need to buy? You know?
Sometimes I'd say, get out of that liquor store. It's too high priced.
Yeah. He'd be like, what's that? What's that go for? I remember I was at the one, it's over off Shelbyville Road. And so if you take a left on Shelbyville Road, right there by
Road's
Papa
a big
John's.
road, man.
No.
Okay, there's like 5 Papa John's on
coming from the
Shelbyville
Snyder, you know, you'd take a left off Shelbyville, coming from our house anyway.
Okay.
But anyway, I was in a liquor store. And he's like, no. Get the heck out of there. They want what for that bottle? But I bought, for my first bottle of Blanton's, I bought, and it really, you know, it might sound weird, but it really, the connection between seeing a Blanton's top and like thinking about Chris as a friend is like, there's a tight connection there, because I bought that first bottle and I felt like he had led me into finding a bottle of Blanton's.
There you go.
As subconsciously weird as that sounds, but I was like, you know, Chris kind of opened my eyes to like being able to taste different things and
Bourbon
stuff.
Jesus Chris over there.
Yeah. And so me and my brother
I will
bought,
baptize you.
they were going for $45 a bottle retail, and we bought one for $90. And I was like, dude, he didn't know. He left his bottle in the car on a hot day.
Oh man, did it
Pop
cork
the
pop?
top. I said, brother, we gotta. And at the time, I was like, let's flip one of these. I didn't know. I texted Chris. He's like, you can't flip it for that. Not at the time.
Yeah.
But we opened and drank both bottles, and so anyway, the rest is history. That's how I got into bourbon.
So do you have a favorite bottle? It's a favorite pour you've tried?
Ever?
Yep. Man, I know you've tried some good stuff.
Yeah, I've tried a ton of stuff, and a lot of the ones that people tend to chase don't fancy my palate a lot of times, but I would say I was gifted a bottle of Weller 12, and that's got to be a close top 2-3.
That's all good.
That one's great. And then I would say real close nectar to that was I forget which one, number 6, Stag Jr.
Oh, Stag Jr.
Okay.
Batch 6.
I think it was. But that one was, I don't know. I like the high proof stuff
I do
nowadays.
too.
I like a punch. I like anything barrel proof. Like if it's not giving me a punch, it better be something different, you know?
So Seth, talking about the Blantons too, and Scott, I really forgot all about this because I try to hold myself back from popping open the new ones that I've got, but Blanton straight from the barrel.
Okay, yep.
Excellent. And I know Seth likes that profile too.
Yep.
Obviously they're all a single barrel, so they're all a little bit different, but
Yep.
you know, that high proof Blantons, I like it.
I do too. I'll be the first one to admit that, like, whenever I'm drinking Blanton's, I typically want straight from the barrel or Blanton's Gold.
Yeah.
The problem is they're just stupid expensive.
They're very expensive.
But yeah, I mean, if I'm going to drink a Blanton's, that's probably the Blanton's I'm going to drink. I don't typically drink standard Blanton's anymore. I have bottles of it for people to drink and try at my bar, but you will rarely see me
I would
pour some
agree.
for myself.
Yeah.
So.
I set back 2 bottles with my kids' birth dates on them.
Oh, okay. You were lucky enough then.
I was lucky enough to do that.
That's nice.
He helped
Yeah.
us find 2 for our kids as well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Does Jenna want to come on? You want to talk, Jenna? You can come over here. Snuggle up next to. Oh, look. You're
Seth will give up your
you're getting
spot.
the Seth spot.
I can jump into somebody's mic.
We're going to ask Jenna what her favorites are. And I always love having a woman's perspective because, like I said on the previous episode when we talked with these guys, just get close, hug the mic.
Yeah,
and
they're
I'm
We'll
really
dial you in.
short, so
it's all good. You can pull it down. There we go. You just get a little closer and you'll be all right. So what's your favorite distillery tour visit? And then what is the favorite bottle that you've had?
So distillery tour visit was kind of interesting because we've been to lots of different distilleries, but all of them have great qualities that they each excel at. I would say all around I'm partial to Starlight just because we've been on picks there, and it's hands down just the experience can't be beat. It's very.
She was not down here when we talked about that. You
I wasn't. I didn't even. I didn't know that you all talked about that. Yeah.
It's hard to beat that family atmosphere, right? You get in there, you enjoy it. They take you through the rick house. Yeah, no, I get it. That
I will say I really enjoyed 1792 whenever they had tours open. That was really interesting because their bottling line is massive and just I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah, Barton is a pretty significant facility there for sure. Yeah. And that's
no longer doing tours either.
No.
We can say we got in.
I wonder if they will open it back up ever. I don't know.
If the market goes down, maybe. I don't know.
Who knows? So do you have a bottle?
Oh, a favorite bottle. I was here whenever you all mentioned Straight from the Barrel. That was by far one of my favorites early on, but I really like High Proof that has like a nice caramely note. And we had a bottle of Straight from the Barrel that was, I think, a 2015 year.
Gotcha.
And I really love that one. I don't think you can replicate it because it's a single barrel, but
yeah,
she likes Old Forester 150th batch 2.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Yep. No, solid pour. I like all the 150ths and stuff like that. So, but well, good deal. It's always nice to find out what other people like. It gives other people also like, because I feel like I beat the old dead horse all the time, and it's funny that I'm glad you all said Starlight, as far as that, because I've been telling people like don't sleep on it. Like take the experience, go in there. It's a 20-minute drive from Louisville. It gives people the opportunity to go in and sit with what I love most about it is the fact that it's family centric. I mean, literally, you'll see Ted there, you'll see Christian, you'll see Blake, you'll see Dana. And if you run into the folks that are running the farm side as well, you can talk to them. Allie and them. So it's just really really unique when you get to see that entire aspect of how they run that entire facility. From farm to table, basically.
Yeah, and I think that John's family, they drove up from Southern Alabama, and they can vouch that it was hands down like one of the coolest experiences I think that they had ever had. They didn't know that existed in Southern Indiana, and they were happy to drive, 8.5 hours to come and visit Starlight.
8 hours. He says ours.
Ours.
8 hours.
8 hours.
He washes.
I can send you. Yeah.
He probably washes his clothes too.
No, I do not wash my car.
Wash your car.
Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Or my clothes. That's how
Jenna's mom.
Wash.
She always says wash.
With an R.
Let's get that clothes out of the wash.
Well, I appreciate you having me out again today. And if you want to find Bourbon Barrel Talk, you can find us on all of our social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those good things. You can also download our episodes immediately. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. This is Scott, Chris, Jenna, Seth, and John signing off. Peace out.